Hi, today's video is from the channel Mausoleo de los Horrors. You can go and see all the other videos they have. I hope you like it.
Welcome to the Mausoleo de los Horrores, a space dedicated to giving voice to those paranormal or inexplicable stories that most of us have experienced. Stories in which we do not know exactly what we saw, but we do remember how that experience made us feel. Be it fear or confusion, anguish or calm. What we do know is that what we felt was real. And the quote that brings us here today are 3 stories from people who have worked in the morgue. Those places where an infinite number of paranormal stories are told. Because it is here, where endless energies are stored, and up to this point, some souls barely leave their bodies. So let's forget for a while about the outside stress of the world. Prepare the drink of your preference. Turn up the volume, put in your headphones, relax, and join us. The first story of the day was shared with us anonymously. I really hope that someone can believe me, because despite my training during the career, I could never give an explanation to what I lived. And the truth is that I do not seek to gain anything by telling you this. It was my second formal job in a morgue. I studied medicine, so I had already been in these places due to my practices and my social service. But the first moment I entered these facilities, something in the environment, I do not know how to explain it. It was not normal. And as I said, I had already been in these places on several occasions. Each one was different, but this one in particular made me feel a very heavy vibe. As in each morgue, it was normal to hear stories of all kinds, and I already knew which were the most famous of this place. From sounds of footsteps with bare feet in the hallways, knocks on the plates where they put the deceased, voices, and the appearance of an old woman who walked through a specific hallway. I, the truth, having already experienced these situations before, I would not fall under the weight of suggestion. If I managed to identify the fact that I was not influenced by how bad I felt in that place. Because even the morgue I am telling you about looked much better than the ones I had been in before. Much more illuminated with new instruments and furniture. In short, everything was fine there except the atmosphere. My first shift was definitely the worst. I had been assigned to the night shift, and I was really more than used to being with the least amount of staff possible in the morgue. Because many times I had to be at night with at most 1 or 2 people. So it was nothing strange for me. They had left me with a girl who I assumed would be my assistant. I say this because the manager did not introduce her to me when he left in a hurry and left me with what I needed for the shift. And in fact, I coincided very little with her. She seemed distracted. She was never with me in my assigned place, and I was not much of a leaver from where I worked either. Either out of embarrassment for not knowing anyone, or simply out of laziness. I only saw her leave for reception sometimes. She didn't say a word to me. There was even a time of a few hours where I didn't hear anything from her. I thought she was one of those people who didn't care much about her job. So I didn't go looking for her either. Overall, it wasn't like she needed much help with the light workload of the day. But I'll be honest, I was a little upset by the fact that she was supposed to help me. But at the same time, I was calm, because the next day my assistant would arrive, with whom I had already worked, and I knew I could count on him for this job. It was 2:30 in the morning, and I saw this girl enter the room where I was. She took her bag and walked towards the door to leave again. I asked her, a little upset, where she was going. And she, without looking at me again, and without stopping walking, she only told me that it was almost time. During the night I never spoke to her, so I assumed she was referring to her break shift, and I simply let her go. I continued making the report of a girl when I saw the time. It was 2:49. All those stories that had been told to me before, and that, until that moment, had not even crossed my mind. I was also thinking about the time because I had been told that at 3 in the morning. It supposedly got ugly in that morgue. I sighed a little from tiredness, I suppose, and thinking about those stories too didn't help me at all. I decided to rest a little. I covered the body with a sheet, and I began to pick up some old things to put them in their place. After a few moments I heard footsteps in the hallway. I thought it was my assistant, so I waited for her. I waited for those footsteps to get closer to the door and be able to see her, but it never happened. The footsteps came slowly, and it was where I remembered the story that had been told to me. About the little old lady who walked through the hallways. The truth is, I never believed those stories, but even so, I was afraid of meeting her when I left, in case it was true. So I just stayed listening attentively to the footsteps in the hallway. I jumped in fright when the sound of my watch warned me that it was 3 in the morning. And, inspired, I still didn't decide to leave the place. I took my bag, and when I got to the door, all the lights went out. I instantly became paralyzed with fear, because as soon as the light went out, voices began to be heard inside the room. And I couldn't move. The only thing I could do automatically was turn on the flashlight on my cell phone. And what I saw was that if I couldn't even move before, this left my skin and bones frozen. On each of the tables, all the bodies were sitting. Seeing this, I felt like I was slowly losing consciousness. And for those few seconds I stayed watching how the bodies talked and laughed among themselves. I woke up in a hospital room where the doctor in charge and the director of the place I worked for were. When I woke up, they didn't even ask me or say anything. They looked calm, as if they already knew what had happened to me. The director, who looked somewhat older, closed the door of the room, and without asking me anything, she said, "How bad that they left you alone without telling you anything. I know what you saw last night." I asked her what she was talking about or what she was referring to. Sighed and told me. A while ago, an old woman arrived at the hospital, very serious. We did not know exactly what she was suffering from. We did several tests, and we could not find anything. but she did look pretty bad. She spent a few nights in the hospital. It must have been about 3 or 4. And during the nights she screamed that we should not let her die. And it was during the 5th night, when the old lady went to the hospital morgue with a scalpel that we never knew where she got it from. She ended the life of a coroner and one of his assistants. But according to our studies, when she committed the crime, the old woman had already been dead for an hour. And they say that it was the devil himself who used the old woman's body. That is why they say that at 3 o'clock he always comes to play with the dead, making them talk and get up. As we learned, the old woman had made a pact with the devil himself to save the life of one of his granddaughters, who had a very advanced and incurable disease. He had told me little about these things, but the truth is, I did not believe them, and the girl they gave me as my assistant did not tell me anything either. I answered the director. "Which girl? Wasn't your assistant going to arrive just today?" he asked me. I said no. I described the assistant I had seen and told him that she always left me alone and all that. "Oh, girl. If you want, we can transfer you to another hospital without problem. On recommendation, I suggest you not go back to that morgue. That girl, as you described her, was most likely the girl that old woman killed that day. But we had not seen her since she died," the director told me. Of course, that same day I asked him to help me with the paperwork to change hospitals. And we did not struggle much. But I am grateful not to have returned to that place, where my perception towards the morgue changed for a long time.
Great video. Remember to go to their channel and check out the other videos they have. If you liked my work, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe. If you have any other videos you would like to see, leave them in the comments box.